So let's kick it off, I guess, then.
Go ahead.
Pepe, I think it will be good to get a quick background on you once again, because we want to obviously then go on to like this very complicated topic of performance marketing instead. But maybe just give us a quick background on who you are and what you do here at Project A.
Yeah, so I've been at Project A now for a bit more than 6 years, and actually I started out as a performance marketer in display and paid social, so very familiar with the topic. And then I actually had two short stints during Project A. One was 1 year with my son, basically, which was definitely developing myself, especially on the emotional level and personal. And then another short stint was at Facebook. Facebook was amazing, but Project A is even more amazing. Yeah. And and that was also very helpful in my career path. And yeah, now I'm back, and I'm very happy to be at Project A.
We're so happy to have you back. I still remember like people were celebrating literally when we were getting the news that we were able to poach you back from Facebook, or you made the very voluntary move to come back to Facebook. You're our CMO now, so you're in charge of basically everything that is marketing. Project A as a company has, I would say, a long history in performance marketing, in marketing in general, but also specifically in performance marketing. Rainer said it earlier that Florian, of course, is doing a lot of work in performance marketing. You probably worked a lot with Florian. You learned a lot, hopefully somehow, from Florian. And now you're basically saying what you've been teaching is over.
Yeah.
You're not you're dead, but kind of like what the thing that you've been preaching is dead. How does that feel?
Weird. Yeah, because I think it was also kind of a conflict in myself, because I basically started out as a performance marketer. There have been not only Florian who I've learned from, but also other people during my career, like Dorothee Seedorf or Franziska Jölling, all very experienced performance marketers. But I think at some point, like that started around 4 years ago, I was basically questioning myself, is that now basically the way forward, and are we going to stick to how we do things right now? Especially if you look at how we basically define performance marketing, that is always based on some sort of like campaign optimization, that's on the one hand side, and then the other part is also that it's very much dependent and based upon deterministic user tracking, which gets very, very tough over the next few years. Yeah. And
so that's what you mean when you say performance marketing is dead?
Yes, exactly. So my definition, or not my definition, but how I see performance marketing very often defined is basically if you come from, let's say, 10 years back, you basically have those e-commerce shops, and then they basically optimize the campaigns with Excel, very data-driven. And I think that is changing now for a good reason. Yeah.
And what does it mean in theory? I mean, you're in charge, or you're in charge of all things that we do at marketing. You work with a lot of portfolio companies in marketing. Yeah. Can you give me an example? I guess the marketers in the room will probably understand exactly what you mean. I, as a interested dilettante, I'm kind of like asking, what does that mean? What was possible before, which that is not possible anymore? Does that mean I see less ads finally?
Yeah, no, you won't. So I like to define performance marketing, or like how we use basically deterministic user tracking in 3 different ways. One is optimization, right? Basically receiving the signals and optimizing towards that. Basically you can see, okay, how many conversions did a specific ad even create, not even say talking about a campaign, but really an ad within a campaign and within an ad set or ad group. That's one, and the other use case is reporting. Reporting not meaning what you see in Facebook or what you see in Google, but actually what you see internally in your attribution model. And I mean, the attribution model is usually the go-to weapon you use to steer your marketing budget, right? And that also gets weaker because basically you basically cannot track 100% of your user journey anymore. And then the third one is, and I don't know if I'm actually very thankful for that, but is targeting. So I think the most common use case is retargeting. I'm actually a bit happy that we're going to move a little bit away from retargeting, because it can also be quite annoying. And I think those are the 3 use cases usually where I say, okay, that makes it very tangible in terms of performance marketing, how it's based on deterministic user tracking.
Got it. Understand. So that is a bit of a seismic shift, I think, for what happens in marketing. So we have, I know now what you mean by performance marketing is dead, but what do I do now? So if I'm a company, a marketer, and so on, should I, like Luke, just beg people to hire me for something else, or is there hope somewhere?
Yeah. That's a very good question, and I also was struggling a little bit. I think that was 4 years ago when Ole was telling me, like, hey, like, are we just continue doing things as we do them right now, with like managing the campaigns very granularly and optimizing them as we do it? And I was like, yes, of course, and I mean that's our job. But then it took me some time, but I think we have to stay open to the solutions which will be provided, and also be flexible in terms of like how we shape our profiles. Because I think in the past we, as marketers, always have been data-driven, but not necessarily technical. Technical in the sense of building really new solutions, and then also have a creative mindset of actually what experience do we actually want to bring across to the users. Because I think we've always been very focused on like, okay, what works well according to a specific data set, but not necessarily actually questioning ourselves, does that actually resonate to what we want to bring across? So I think on the one hand side, this will kind of change, and then no, nothing is like lost. I think we just change our profiles, and the solutions, there are actually already solutions in place. For example, if we talk about optimization, then one solution is that most of the, I mean, you all know that, but most of the networks are already relying much more on conversion modeling, right? So that makes it much, on the one hand side, a bit more tricky for marketers to trust the systems, right? Because usually it's like, okay, that's kind of like a black box, like how much is modeled upwards, how much is really coming from Facebook or Google or TikTok whatsoever. But on the other side, I mean, that's the only option we have, right? We have to kind of rely on that, and that will also kind of change how we set up campaigns, in a sense that we just have to make sure that, because you have to imagine conversion modeling means that there's an algorithm behind it to basically model out like how many conversions are actually attributed to that campaign on a higher level, and that means that you also have to consolidate your account setups, right? So I think that will also be, it will definitely make our lives easier, but also means that we have to think about more creative solutions to deal with that.
That's quite interesting. I'll share with you why I think it's interesting in a second. I just wanted to remind everyone, especially the hundreds of thousands of people dialing in from their homes, to keep sending us questions. I don't know if we're getting already some. If not, please do. We'll have some time for questions also later, obviously also here in the audience. I did think that's interesting though, because Luke established earlier that I'm very old, and I remember when we started working in the online world in 2006 or so, people who were going into marketing were often thinking, it's like working in an advertising agency. I'm going to come up with all of these creative concepts, and it's going to be fun and creative, and then mostly it was Excel based. People were creating keyword lists and looking at click prices, and so it was very, very different. And what you're describing now is that role has kind of changed into, in an interim, being something very number-driven, structural, campaign-driven. And now you're basically saying that there's two ways for a marketer to kind of develop, if I understand you correctly. So one is actually becoming creative again, because we need to come up with really, really cool concepts that work over the limitations of click attribution and so on. And the other aspect is you can also become very, very technical to really dive deep into how can we understand on our own servers, with our own platforms, how people are behaving. Is that an accurate description?
Yes, and I think I think it's a very interesting development, because 20 years ago it was definitely, as you said, like it was about big campaigns, being aware, like really big brand campaigns basically, and then we shifted 10 years ago, especially because it was a very e-commerce heavy phase, I think, where it was very data driven, and now it's changing a little bit, also with the changes in the industry regarding data privacy and so on. And I think one very good example, in my opinion, is Sarah from Trade Republic. I think she early on already had this vision of like, I want to bring something across which is substantial in terms of data and performance, but at the same time still want to bring across the brand message and actually what my product stands for. So that was definitely, or that's a very good example. And I think also when we hire at Project A, I always tend to look for someone who's like has a very technical understanding or can have a very technical understanding, but at the same time also is creative. And I think Trade Republic also has very good examples sitting here, Eva and Lucina. That's about it, I guess.
Yeah, but that makes a lot of sense. As an outside observer, you can probably come to the conclusion something's going really right at Trade Republic, right? So something seems to be working also on the customer acquisition side. And I think Sarah's also, she either already gave or is about to give a talk here today together with Florian, I think, about the future CMO of...
it's actually with me.
Sorry, yeah, okay. So then I'm not going to spoil that much more, but I think that can really be recommended because I think she's indeed a shining example on how things like that should be done.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds good. So, 1 minute until we go into questions. What's the recommendation for all the marketers out there?
Okay, so first of all, I think everyone has to just get their shit together in terms of what's happening. Like we have ad blockers, we have browsers blocking third-party cookies. I mean, right now it's just ITP from Apple and also Mozilla, but Chrome will also follow, right? So we have to stay on top of things if we look at what's changing in the industry and stay open to the solutions provided by the networks. I know it's uncomfortable because it's a black box, but I think we also have to understand the position where we are, and it's very hard to change things as a small to mid advertiser,
Got it.
Or even big,
So, folks, performance marketing is dead. Thank you very much for some insights. Did we get any questions from the audience? Lots of them.
Yes, it's a very hot topic, isn't it?
Great.
Okay.
So I can lay back and you can...
I'm ready.
Let's start with a somewhat more technical and easy one, I'd say, from Anna Zemig.
Yeah.
I just want to say, which tool do you basically recommend for conversion modeling right now?
It's not a tool, actually, because basically, and I think that's also something which is what I probably see differently, because conversion modeling basically lives within the networks, right? Because you will never, because they will have the data to basically create a very efficient delivery system to basically see, okay, what kind of people are very alike to convert on specific products and so on. So there's no tool in that sense for conversion modeling. It's really just have to try to...
basically.
Pardon?
It's more a paradigm than a tool.
Yeah, exactly. And I would also try to not use too many tools on that,
Wonderful. Right, let's continue. We've got Ole Bostov, our very own VP of Data Analytics coming in. Actually, building on Uwe's question on the theme of becoming creative again, he says, what does that mean in terms of marketing team structures? Are we going to hire marketing creative strategists, or do we need to outsource that to agencies?
No, I think... No, I don't think you have to. I mean, it's everyone's decision if you what you want to outsource. But on the one hand side, yes, you will kind of need someone who is like a strategist, especially when it comes to the creative message. But the two fundamental things you will need to hire for is like people who understand technical concepts. For example, if we want to roll out a server-to-server tracking, do we have the talent to do that? I mean, obviously, like there are also tools which can help you with that, but there should at least be some basic understanding of that.
Well, we did discuss that there is sort of like a diversion going on where we have more creative parts of marketing happening, and there's more technical parts. So you're saying we need the technical first, and on part of that we can build the creative part.
No, I think you need both at the same time.
So you need both at the same time?
Yeah.
So we don't need two diversion parts, more or less. We need one path built on top of each other, basically, is what you're saying?
So if I would hire someone, then I would always...
Which you have?
Yeah.
Which you have, yes.
Yeah. Let's say, for example, Luke. Yeah, Luke is a very good example, actually. Luke has, he has this, he already comes from this performance marketing background, but he has a very strong technical understanding, and at the same time understands like what kind of creatives make sense and also which doesn't. So he has a very precise eye on what users basically crave for, and that's also the reason why we hired him.
Wonderful. Yeah, he's a great shout, isn't he?
He's definitely a performer.
Yeah.
He's definitely a performer. So
he's a performer. He did do some great rapping earlier. Building upon that question, basically, Franziska Röll-Ruland is asking, how will we be able to combine creative brand marketing now with this new conversion modeling that we've discussed?
I think it's anyway going to be combined because the creatives you're going to basically serve in the networks, there's always going to be a creative on it, right? And you always want to bring across a specific message. So I mean, you're not going to like run ads which are not beautiful, I would say, or you don't want to do that.
Right. One concern that has been now voiced by Juliana Besler is that conversion modeling is a luxury. You need a lot of data to do it properly, right? To model the customer's user journey. Yeah. Wouldn't that leave smaller budgets and smaller teams behind out of this realm? I'm not putting it aside to a certain degree.
I think we have to differentiate first conversion modeling. There's conversion modeling which lies within the networks, and yes, that's true, we're going to have less data, but that's also the reason why we're basically moving into a direction where we basically consolidate more the campaigns to basically make sure that we have on a certain entity level enough data or enough sample data to basically fuel the models. And if we look into conversion modeling for in-house, so for our own measurement systems internally, I think that's very something I wouldn't specifically go for because I think there are much more robust methodologies for that. For example, you could just use lift testing, which I'm a huge fan of actually. I know it doesn't show any user journey, but it tells you the truth. You just do like an A/B test and basically it tells you like what's the incremental uplift. Yeah, that's something I would probably do.
Interesting. This whole creativity versus technical debate has sparked some opinions in this chat, which is quite interesting to see.
Some dissent.
Dissent, yes. Caroline Deichmann-Bendixen has been saying that creativity should actually be at the forefront. Earlier you've said, we hired somebody like Luke, who's very strongly technical, and he also has his eye for the creative side of things. But here we are hearing that the opposite should actually be the case, where we hire more creative first, because that's what you actually see, right, as the targeted customer, and then teach them the technical skills.
I think I'm lost.
Well, we started with Luke, who's a bit more technical, but also has this eye for creativity. Now there's this side coming up that we should do the opposite. Hire creative and teach them technical.
I think
What's your take?
So what I would do is I always test the technical capabilities of the talents, whatever seniority level they are, because I think that's something, I don't expect people to already understand what server-to-server tracking is, how a Google Tag Manager works, and so on. But I think you can ask certain questions where you can get an idea of if that person actually understands or has an understanding of technical concepts.
Right, makes sense. Everyone, thanks so much for the questions. We have to now cut it short at this place. Thanks one more time. A big applause for PP Horstmann. Thanks.
Thank you.